Okay, so hopefully you guys have had a little bit of practice here, substituting in for the variables x and y on your marker boards. What we're going to do, as you can see on the paper in front of you, is we're going to graph now these equations. And before we can graph our equations, we have to fill in this little chart. So we're going to do a couple of these together, and then I'm going to have you practice a little bit on your own. So the first equation I'd like for you to write, and we're going to write it in this empty box from the top, is I want you to write the equation y equals 3x. Now we know that when they're touching like this means multiply. We can see that we have the two variables. We have the y variable and the x variable. The x, and we're going to talk a little bit more tomorrow about independent and dependent. X is our independent variable here because it's going to determine what the y answer is. So I'm going to give you some x variables here. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and put in the numbers 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to make it very simple. We're going to take the 0 here for our x, and we're going to substitute it in, but we're going to write it in this box. So we're going to write the equation y equals 3, and instead of putting the x, we're going to substitute in 0. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to do parentheses like this, because I know that that means multiplying. All right, so what is 3 times 0? 3 times 0, the answer would be 0. So y would equal 0. My ordered pair, if you notice, we had x of 0 and y is 0. So we're going to go ahead and write 0, 0. If you notice, I have a comma in between the two numbers, and I put parentheses on the front and the back, showing that it's an ordered pair. All right, let's go to the next x. The x variable we're going to use is 1. So I'm going to take the x out. So I'm going to write y equals 3. And instead of the x, I'm going to put a 1 here. What is 3 times 1? It's 3. So my ordered pair now is 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Parentheses and comma. Looks good. Let's go to the 2. We're going to put 2 in. So let's write the equation y equals 3. And this time we're going to say 3 times 2. We know that 3 times 2 is 6. My ordered pair is 2 and 6. All right. I bet you're getting the hang of this. This is going to be y equals 3 times, and we're going to put a 3 in here. 3 times 3 is 9. So what is my ordered pair? 3 and 9. Okay, once again, if you need to pause the video in order to keep up so you can write things down, please pause it and work at the speed that is good for you. Okay, so we're going to take these ordered pairs now, and we are going to graph them here on our graph paper. We have the x-axis here, and we have the y-axis. The corner we know is going to be 0. Now, if you notice, there are no numbers on my x and y-axis because I want to look to see what numbers are going to be the best. Well, if I look at my x numbers, I have a 0, 1, 2, and 3. Oh, so counting by ones will be great. However, if you notice how close these lines are, and I'm kind of a big writer, so I'm going to kind of space things out. I'm going to space my numbers out. So I'm going to skip a line and count 1, skip 2, skip 3, skip 4, skip 5, and I'm going to keep skipping and counting. Now I've spaced my numbers out so it's kind of neat and it's easier for me to find the lines and find the numbers. All right, let's look and see if I can do the same thing with the y. It looks like the largest y I have is a 9. And if you notice, I made it all the way to 10, so I think I can do the same thing over here. So let's go ahead and number. Skip a line. And write 1, skip a line 2, skip a line 3, skip 4. All right, so if you need to pause your video so that you can finish counting, you can. You will notice I have a nice pattern counting by ones, counting by ones. My pattern was to skip a line and count, so everything looks like it's ready to go. Let's go ahead and graph our ordered pairs. My first one says go over 0 up 0. Well, if I start right here and I go over 0 and up 0, I'm going to stay right there. My next ordered pair says I'm going to go over 1 and up 3. So I start here at our origin. I'm going to go over to the 1, and I'm going to go up to the 3, and I'm going to put a dot. My next one says to go over to the 2 and up to the 6. Looks like I'm going to go about right there. And the last one says to go over 3 and up to the 9. Make sure my dots are nice and easy for you to see. All right, I'm going to draw a line now through my points as best I can. I obviously will have a little bit of human error here. Now, if my chart here would continue going, obviously, my line's going to keep going. Okay, so we have taken an equation that has two variables. We found what the x and the y represented. We made ordered pairs, and we graphed those ordered pairs. Now, this was kind of an easier equation, but of course, sometimes the equations are going to get a little bit more challenging. Okay, let's go ahead and move down to the one down here. And the equation this time we're going to put over here. I kind of had to make things backwards for us so it would fit on our paper. So the equation I want you to write is y equals 4x plus 1. And I'm going to have us go ahead and keep these small. Well, what am I writing a 4 for? Oh, this is why we don't use pen, Mrs. Hauk. 0, 1, 2, and 3. All right, and we're going to substitute in for our x. Oh boy, this one's going to be a little bit more challenging. We have y equals 4 times, and instead of the x, we're going to put a 0 plus 1. What is 4 times 0? 0. And 0 plus 1 is 1. So my ordered pair is 0 and 1. Okay, next one, we're going to put in 1. Y equals 4, and instead of the x, remember, we're putting in the 1, and we still have to add the 1. 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5. So my ordered pair is 1 and 5. Okay, next one. Let's write our equation. Y equals 4. Take the x out and let's put a 2 plus 1. Let's see, 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 plus 1 is 9. So what does our ordered pair equal? It looks like it equals 2 and 9. All right, last one. The last one is y equals 4 times, and let's see, our x is going to be 3 this time, plus 1. 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 plus 1 is 13. So it looks like our last ordered pair is a 3 and a 13. All right, looks like we are ready to graph our equation. Once again, we'll call the origin right here 0. Our x-axis, let's say our x numbers. We had the x numbers of 0, 1, 2, 3. Those are all small numbers. I can easily count here. I'm going to probably count like I did up here. I'm going to skip to make it nice and neat. So I'm going to skip and go 1, skip 2, skip 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I have them nice and spread out. I counted by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see it works perfectly. And now I'm ready to look at my y's. Well, if you look at the y's, I have a 1, 5, 9, and a 13. If I count the same way I did here, I'm not going to make it for my 13. So I'm going to probably have to count differently for this one. Now, as long as I continue a pattern, whether I'm going to count by 2s or 3s, as long as I have a pattern over here, I'm fine. I'm going to count by 2s, but I'm going to actually count by 2s by skipping lines. So, for example, I'm going to skip the first line, and I'm going to go 2, skip the next one, 4, skip, 6, skip, 8. So if you can see I'm actually counting by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But I'm only writing the even numbers. 10, 11, 12. So I went ahead and counted the entire way up. If you notice I have a pattern, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, all the way up to 20. But if you notice I skipped lines in between each one to spread them out a little bit. So I still have a pattern. And because I tried to keep them the same distance apart, hopefully my line will come out nice and straight. We'll see. All right, so let's go ahead. Like I said, if you need to pause this so you can finish counting your y-axis, please do so. But we're going to go ahead and plot our first ordered pair, which happens to be 0, 1. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to go over 0, up 1. So let's go over 0, up 1, and we're going to put a dot right there. All right, let's do our next one. Our next one is over 1, up 5. So this time we're going to go over 1, and I'm going to go up to, oh, look, 5 is going to be in between 4 and 6. So it's going to be right there. Okay, the next one says over 2, up 9. So here's my 2, and my 9 is going to be between the 8 and the 10 here. So I can kind of maybe match up, and it looks like my dot's going to go right there. And my last point that I have on here is going to be over 3, up 13. So here's my 3, and I have to go all the way up to, looks like 13 is going to be right there for me. I'm going to put a dot. And if I start here, I can draw my line. And this is what our equation would look like when we graphed it. Okay, so we're going to do one more together, and then I'm actually going to ask you guys to do the rest on your own. If you notice, the equations are going to get a little bit more challenging. This equation is actually going to have a fraction in it, but the fraction that I'm going to give to you actually is a pretty simple one. We're going to multiply by a half. Okay, so here's our equation. Y equals 1/2 x plus 2. I like keeping small x variables, so let's go ahead and just do the, if I'm multiplying by half, I could do 0. I don't think I want to do 1 because that's going to be kind of, let's see, I'm going to do even numbers, 2, 4, and 6. And I'm going to show you why I chose those for my x variables. I'm going to choose those because I'm going to have to cut them in half. And to cut something in half is going to be easier to cut an even number in half. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's write our equation. Y equals 1/2. And instead of the x, we're going to put in a 0 plus 2. Okay, well, what is half of 0? Half of 0 is 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. So my ordered pair is 0, 2. Some of you are starting to get the hang of it a little bit and are starting to work ahead, which is fine. Let's put in 2 here. Y equals 1/2, and instead of the x, we're going to put in a 2 plus 2. What is half of 2? Well, if I have 2 and I cut it in half, that means 1. And 1 plus 2 is 3. So my ordered pair is 2, 3. All right, let's do the next one. Y equals 1/2, and this time we're going to do 4 plus 2. Multiplying, remember you can use the word of, so I could say what is 1/2 of 4. Half of 4 is 2. 2 plus 2 would be 4. So I have an ordered pair here of 4, 4. And our last one, y equals 1/2 of 6. And then we're going to add 2 more. So half of 6, half of 6 is 3. 3 plus those 2 more would be 5. Okay, looks like we're ready to graph. So let's go ahead and put a 0 here. X-axis. Looks like we have plenty. Look, our numbers are pretty small, aren't they? So I'm going to go ahead and do what we did earlier, and I'm going to skip count by 1, skip 2, skip 3, 4. So I kind of skipped lines to make it kind of nice and neat. I have a pattern. I'm counting by ones. Now we're going to do our y's. Looks like our y's are pretty small numbers too, aren't they? So I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to skip count. So that means I'm going to skip the first line. I'm going to go 1, skip 2, so I went ahead and skipped lines, but I still counted by the pattern of 1. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause your video. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and graph our points. The first order pair we have is over 0, up 2 would be right here on the y-axis. The next one we have is over 2, here's the 2, and up to the 3, right there. Next one we have is over to the 4, and up to the 4, right there. And our last one is over 6, and up 5. Okay, so we have taken our equation. We substituted in some numbers for the x to find the y amount. We made ordered pairs, and then we took the ordered pairs and we graphed them on our coordinate plane. All right, so you're going to do some problems on your own. If you would like to use a calculator to help you with the multiplication part and the adding part, I will allow you to do that. If you're having a hard time knowing how to count on your coordinate plane, please go ahead and raise your hand and ask the teachers, and they can help you with that. All right, I will see you all in person tomorrow.